morning, everyone, and welcome to the After the Belmont Stakes Sunday edition of Talking Horses. I'm Sarah Badwe, joined by Paul Verderosa. And Paul, wow, yesterday was so cool to be here, see history made, and such incredible performances. Really feel good stories throughout the entire day. I know I had a blast. I know you had a blast.
Without a doubt. Racing needed a day like yesterday, and we had so many tremendous performances, not only from our equine athletes, but just the history that was made also in the Belmont Stakes as well. Favorite performance?
I mean, you can't top Arcangelo. I know Cody's Wish was unbelievable, even plenty of the undercard stakes as well, with so many champions that we got to witness yesterday. Clairiere, incredible, winning that Ogden Phipps back-to-back. It's just such a cool day of racing. But that video of Jenna Antonucci celebrating as she became the first female trainer to win not only the Belmont Stakes, but any Triple Crown race in history, and just the words that she said about making your own place in this game, and especially as a woman myself, it's incredibly inspiring and just really cool to be a part of that in person.
It truly is, and she does such a tremendous job with her horses, and she has for years, giving them time to develop. And sometimes what gets lost in the shuffle is, I'm not saying that it happens all the time in bigger barns, but in barns like Jenna, they really just take their time with horses, and it just paid off dividends. It was such a great story. It was great to see. And you mentioned Clairiere ran down my pet search results. I really thought this time she was going to get the job done again. She just didn't. And there were a lot of really, really good stories. Next comes to mind in the Brooklyn Handicap, too. Spent a few minutes with Lewin Machado afterwards, and he was just over the moon. That was his first mount ever at Belmont Park.
Wow.
And his first mount was a win in a Grade 2 race. And
History
that was,
all over the place.
Yeah, Caravel, too. Everybody tries to keep beating her, and she keeps on plugging along.
I know, that was a good field that she was able to beat yesterday, especially with the disadvantage of the outside post, too. So just yesterday, we're all kind of basking in the afterglow, but today we have 11 races for you as well. We have a couple of rescheduled stakes from Thursday's card that was unfortunately canceled, so we actually have 4 stakes races on the card today, but we have a couple of promotions available to you, and you can head on over to Naira Bets. We'll take a look at our new promo code. It is bonus 200. Put that in and get the $200 deposit match sign-up bonus. If you're not a member of Naira Bets already, I don't really know what you've been doing with all of your time, but definitely head on over there. What else do we have going on today? We have the middle pick 4. Today's middle pick 4 begins in race 5. That's races 5 through 8 on today's card, which is 11 race card. Next up, we also have the free-to-play. Real prizes are awarded, that free-to-play game. If you head on over to free2play.nairabets.com, you can enroll and get involved there. There's no registration required, and that's also a fun way to take advantage of getting involved with today's races. We also have a $5,000 hit and split. If you hit the Belmont or Monmouth late pick 5, you'll split $2,500 each, but make sure you opt in over at nairabets.com. We also are offering a cross-country pick 5 today. Begins here right at Belmont Park, and the 6th race has our 6th, 7th, and 10th, including that Wonder Again Stakes, but also heads you over to Woodbine and Monmouth Park as well. Those cross-country pick 5s are very fun and affordable to get involved in. And then finally, we also are on America's Day at the Races, just like always, Sunday, June 11th today. We are on FS2 from 1 to 3 p.m., and then we are on FS1 from 3 to 6. So plenty of action going on today, and we can go ahead and get right to it with the first race, which is an allowance going a mile on our turf course, and we're on the Widener for this one. Something we've mentioned a couple times over the weekend is that the rails have been down on both of our turf courses for this weekend specifically, so that's contributed to those inside paths being more beneficial. Paul, did you notice a big difference between the two courses if one was more so an advantage than the other?
I think you want to be more inside on the inner, obviously. It's tighter course, tighter turns, and with the way it played out with the rails down, with the weather we're having, thankfully cleared up and has been warming up, you definitely want to stay on the inner paths if you can. It seems like when you get spun out wide, you're kind of just swimming out there to gain ground. The Widener's a little bit more forgiving here. It always has been. You get those turns, get a horse going. But I think on the inner, you definitely want to be closer to the hedge if you can.
And that's going to be something that comes to mind for me is I picked the number 2, Cadencia, who She's a horse that had been in the Todd Pletcher barn for quite some time, but she was a winner last time out on April 28th, going 6 furlongs, earning her career best by her speed figure that day. And that was when she had joined the Maury barn, because once she got into this barn, she was able to really flaunt more of her early speed than she had in the past. She's not a horse that needs the lead. She can sit right off of the pace, but I think being forward and being towards the inside are really going to help her case today.
Yeah, I think especially with that factor also stretching out to the mile, I don't think it's going to hurt her too badly. She's run races before at a mile that are okay. The inside should help her there too. I was just wondering if there was going to be a little bit more speed in here to keep her company, or she was going to end up a little bit behind horses. I'm not way against her in here. I know I have her fourth, but I think the 4 horses we have on the board are the 4 horses that you want to have.
Right, and mentioning some of that speed, you imagine that Mashing Girl is going to go. She's a very fast one early, and she's tried both turf and dirt, been a little bit more successful on the dirt, but certainly has the speed. And if she can get over to the hedge, and that's playing where that's the place you want to be, it might be to her advantage. I just think this is a better field than she's really been competitive against in the past.
Yeah, 100%. I think that she's a little bit up against it today on the switch over, and it is a better field in here that she's facing. And I mean, my top pick in here, come on, this was the story of yesterday. Party on, girl. So
I'm partied out.
Oh, you're partied out?
I'm partied out.
I think most people are today
know,
when
right?
you take a look around in here. And I just thought that this horse was the right fit in here for this race, especially based on the first U.S. start. I mean, she got bumped pretty good. And then she was trying to get out. She couldn't really get out into the clear. She was forced to stay down inside. She finished up well here. I know it seems a little bit light on the figures, and she ran against some others in here as we take a look at the replay for the race. But I think with the layoff that she had and coming back here, and it wasn't like they bet this horse off the board either for Chad Brown, first time here in the U.S. So I'm thinking second time out, you know, she gets a more comfortable trip. She's used to being here today. I think that she's a major player in here for sure.
And the horse that she ends up finishing just behind, Expand the Map, is one for trainer Chad Brown that she just doesn't win that often. And when you take a horse that's had 5 seconds in her 7 career starts and only the 1 win at a short price, it's just not really something that I'm interested in, although she is pretty talented and she does have some tactical speed.
Yeah, she does, but the second-itis bothers me a lot. When you see 5 seconds, that's not for me. I know I put her second, but that's where I think she'll run.
She's great to key in those exactas as we move on to the second race, and we have stakes action very early on the card with the Astoria Stakes. It's for our 2-year-old fillies going 5.5 furlongs, and this is a compact field, but I think a good one. You went to the number 4, Low Mileage. What do you like about her?
You know, broke slow in that debut. Did save ground, took the lead, driven out, ran professionally in that race. John Salzman knows how to win these races. He's 4 for 18 with a $3.38 ROI with 2-year-olds sprinting on the dirt last time out winners. In this race, I think that when you have the presence of Union Suit in here, and you also don't know if Closing Act's going to have a little bit more speed than what she had also first time out, I'm hoping Low Mileage just sits a nice trip in here, couple of lengths off the lead, and puts in the run that this horse did last time. This horse looked professional doing it. I like that. I know it was down at Laurel. The fields was, you know, so-so, but this horse did it professionally and looked good in here, and I just thought I would give this horse a shot, and I know that this horse is probably going to be somewhat of a price in here too.
And this one has a little bit of pedigree as well. I mean, this is the female family of horses like Bodemeister and Under the Stars, so could obviously take another step forward. When I looked at this race, I watched the replays of all of these horses that had run, and I saw that only Union Suit, the number 1 horse, was one that had really shown early speed. And even though she didn't get out of the gate that quickly, she was able to recover and set the pace in that race at Horseshoe Indianapolis, and that's why I ended up taking her in here. And frequently, you see those 2-year-olds try to just wire the field in their first couple of starts because that's how you win these very short races, but the rest of these contenders that have run have had slower breaks or have come from off the pace. And while I can appreciate that professionalism, I just wanted a horse that I thought would be in front in a short race.
Yeah, that can get out in front and just clear this group, hopefully, and stay inside and keep them all the way around. I thought Donate Life, too, had a very good look in here. Took a pretty good bump at the start as well in our race, and then got a pretty good trip after that until the eventual second-place finner also shifted in as well on her there, too, so made her alter course. I thought she was game in that race, and I also, the experience factor there for me was a big deal in that race. Because also we talk about how 2-year-olds want to just not pass anybody, but if they get a little bit of experience, a little bit of dirt in their face, sometimes they'll remember that second time out and be like, okay, we've done this before. We're in good shape. So Phil Schoenthal's another guy who knows how to win these races when he ships up here with 2-year-olds. So I think the 4, the 1, the 3, they're main players in here.
I'd agree with you. And we'll take a look at a horse that we haven't talked about yet, and that's the number 6 Closing Act, who goes out for trainer Steve Asmussen. And with Irad Ortiz Jr. riding, you know that you're not going to get a price on this one. And this was one that really did have some trouble at the gate in her start. Ends up sitting about mid-pack. Gets herself out into the clear and is able to mow down all of those rivals to the inside, just barely doing so. With her, I think that, as you mentioned earlier, she's certainly capable of showing more early speed with a cleaner break out of the gate. But again, the professionalism, the ability to pass horses, these are all good qualities, as you see her just able to get the win in here. But I'm not interested in taking a horse at a short price that had gate issues first time out, that doesn't possess that early speed as we've seen of yet.
Yeah, and you have to wonder just how low of a price you're going to have to with Irad on the horse. And I will say 2 horses did come back out of that race to run second. So there are some things to like also out of that race. But I don't know. I'm with you on this one. I mean, she can win for sure, but I'm kind of keeping her on the bottom.
All right, sounds good. Well, looking forward to those 2-year-olds. I don't think we'll necessarily have another Belmont Stakes winner out of this race, but great to see what we get going forwards from them, as they are the hope that we look to now this time of year. And in the 3rd race, we'll look at some fillies and mares going 1 mile and 3/8 on the turf course. This is on the inner, and you went to a horse in Shad Nation who has shown the ability to execute some different running styles in the past. And we'll take a look at her race at Keeneland last time out, where she ended up running second to a pretty good horse in the number, sorry, excuse me, I flipped the page here.
Miss Yearwood.
Yes, thank you.
So she was no match for Miss Yearwood that day, but Miss Yearwood did come back to win the Katana. So I didn't like that what I did like about her in this race was that she didn't completely fold up. She actually fended off the 3 other horses that were coming at her at the end of the race. So I thought that that was a good positive sign for her coming out of that race. And I think today she doesn't necessarily need the lead. If she finds herself on it, okay, so be it. But she doesn't necessarily need the lead 2 starts back. She ran just fine. I know sometimes you cannot make a gauge of those Kentucky Downs races and sometimes how they come out form-wise and everything. But I think she's in the right spot today, second off the layoff. And based on her last race, I think she's going to run just fine in here.
And she is one that we so often in these turf races don't see a lot of aggressivity towards the front end. So Dylan is at least a rider that I feel confident in. He'll be able to assess how the pace is playing out in front of him, make the right decision as far as where he wants to place this horse. But one that I do think will be forwardly placed is the number 3, Be Up, who is facing a much better field in here than she had last time. But I didn't see an abundance of pace in this race as far as confirmed front runners, and I just thought that she's been able to step up a little bit recently. She should be able to control this race. I know Manny Franco is not going to take anything away from her early, and I wanted to give her a shot at what I thought would at least be 3rd choice in here.
Yeah, she was definitely supposed to beat that last group like she did last time. So I have no problem with that. Seeing her in person, too, she has the look that she's a long-distance horse, and they just haven't really run her in those long-distance races in quite a while. So it'll be interesting to see how she stretches out today against this group.
Another one that I just wanted to mention quickly as a long shot is the number 6, Peace Seeker, who in all of her 44 lifetime starts has actually only gone this distance 2 times and has a win and a 2nd place effort in those 2 attempts. And in a race where she finished second at going this distance to Bravo Kitten, she was very far back early in a race that was holding together on the front end with the winner sitting just off the pace setter in here. So I felt as though she was a little bit against it in terms of the dynamics of the race flow. Javier Castellano was aboard that day. He reunites with her here, and I think she's one that I want to try to use underneath somewhere.
Yeah, she has some good efforts that could put her in the mix. I just worry how far back she's going to be on this turf course and the way it's been playing, so she may be up against it today. Parnack was my little long shot play that I threw in there for a second, too. I mean, she had the look of a horse that definitely needed that last race. She was kind of in between horses, and to me, it looked like Luca Panici was trying to hustle her into a spot that she didn't really want to go in, and she kind of passed a few late. I really like the switch today to Flavien Prat for her, and Flavien's patient, calm, good hands, and I think Flavien's just going to wait a little bit and let her make that one run.
We'll see what happens in the third. And moving on to the fourth race, we have some of our New York breds going 1.16 in this allowance optional claiming event. And you have no love for Daddy Knows.
You know, I think it was that fifth choice.
The,
You know, that you
the
just
infamous fifth
yeah,
pick.
that you just can't
Pulling
squeeze
that
it.
out in the fourth race already.
They could squeeze it underneath the A in my name if they want. They could put the 4 up there. Listen, I get that this horse has improved for Ray Handel, gets along tremendously with Katie Davis as well. I kind of was just thinking, and I know that this horse is fast. I was just hoping Sunday with Sandy also finds a little bit of speed as well. Again, that, you know, because in Sunday with Sandy's case, missed the break last time, was on a dead rail, 2 back. So I know Kendrick's on today, and that's probably going to spell some speed. So I was thinking that they were going to hook up a little bit.
Well, my hope is that Sundays with Sandy is able to clear Daddy Knows a little bit. We'll see how it ultimately ends up playing out, but he's got that early speed to his benefit, which could make him dangerous in here, and he has races in the past that do make him a player. I don't always know where they're going to be. He is not the most consistent type of horse, but now he's going out for the second time for the Michelle Nevin barn. This is his first time on dirt for her, as she did try him on the turf last time out. So I want to see what he can bring to the table today in a race where maybe Daddy Knows tries to go after him and that sets up for somebody else, but I think that he's going to be in front of him early. But we'll take a look at the last race for Daddy Knows, who is installed as your 9-5 morning line favorite. And you mentioned the connections, Ray Handel doing so well with this horse, Katie Davis riding him well, as he is a difficult horse to ride, and some riders have not had the same kind of relationship with him as she has been able to. He's just really blossomed lately, and I don't want to completely discredit him, though I understand what you're saying about dynamics not necessarily setting up.
Yeah, and sometimes dynamics is a relative word when these races happen. Sometimes the best laid plans are done at the gate. But this horse has come around for Ray Handel. Katie Davis has gotten along with this horse very well. And listen, based on those races, this horse is a player in here. I guess the question you have to ask yourself, too, is what price you're going to take on this horse, and if you believe that this horse is going to replicate this number coming off that last start.
And those are all fair questions, especially when you're looking at a 9-5 favorite. But tell me what you like about Mason Mania.
So despite the jump up here for Mason Mania, I thought the race last time out was very game. I mean, Saflo's Mission, it's a consistent type horse, always does well. Horses have come back, basically ran the same figures, more or less, except for a couple of horses that were also rans. 2 back, he ran well. It was a tough field. He did make up ground in there in that race. I think that this is the right Jeremiah Engel horse, especially to get first run if we do see a hookup between the 3 and 4 out there. And there's no reason, even with this little step up in class, that this horse can't be close enough to be first run on those horses in that race. So I want to give this horse a shot. And I think this horse is going to be like the 4 to 5 to 1. That David has up there. So
I would agree, and as you know, David Aragona, one of the best, one of the absolute
100%.
best morning line makers, if not the best. I certainly think he is. And a horse we both have a little bit of interest in further down, 6%. He's going to be hoping that this pace does get hot and falls apart a little bit in the later stages, but he's a consistent type too.
Yeah, he's a little tough to endorse based on the last few, and I wonder if we saw the best of him back at Aqueduct in January when he peaked in that sloppy track race going the mile. I don't know. I mean, if there's a little bit of a setup, he's another one that can lay mid-pack and come. I think I trust Mason Mania a little bit more than I trust 6%, though.
I would agree with that. We'll move on to race number 5, and that is the Jersey Girl Stakes, originally scheduled for Thursday, now moved to today, redrawn, and unfortunately, Red Carpet Ready, who would have been your heavy favorite, is not going to play today. That does drop your price on number 4, Chocolate Gelato, who we can take a look at last year winning the Frizette Stakes. And she's a horse that I really do appreciate this cutback for. What did you think of her?
You know, she's been working steady for the return. We all know she had some little issues after the Breeders' Cup, and they gave her ample time, and they wanted to get some weight on her as well. She's built to go longer, even though the 6 furlongs doesn't bother me for her. When you look at her, you can, kind of see that she could be that 6 furlongs to that mile type. She broke her maiden going the 6. She didn't look the fittest that day, so maybe she doesn't have to be fully cranked here against this group too. We see that she definitely has the talent and can put it all together to do it. Originally, she was my 3rd pick on Thursday. So, and that was merely, I think, just a factor of the layoff coming back and seeing what she looked like in the paddock and everything else, but now she's my second choice. And there's no reason why she cannot win today. There's no reason.
Right, and unfortunately, you're going to have to swallow a very short price, but I just think that she's the most logical contender in here. You went with Aunt Becca, who I think will at least be in front of her early, and that could potentially give her an edge, as we did see a pretty good performance from her getting over to the dirt that we can show after she had run some races on other surfaces. Do you think that she's going to be in front? Do you think that Unified Alliance is going to try to apply a little of that outside pressure?
So the cutback for Unified Alliance for me, I'm just not sure if that speed's going to transfer here. We've seen it so many times where they end up laying second or third. For Aunt Becca, though, the first two races at Turfway I thought were fine. She really put it together in the race we're looking at here. I think if she wants the lead, she's the fastest naturally to grab it. Socially Selective is an okay horse, came back to run second in the Purple Martin. So I think she's going to be in front, and I'm hoping she's just in front, and Chocolate Gelato will have to run her down.
Yeah, and certainly gives her an advantage. A horse we both have third is L Street Lady, who last time out was able to get into the trifecta at a huge price behind a horse that we all really have a lot of respect for in Maple Leaf Mel. And she's one that I think that you want to key underneath somewhere, but I had a tough time seeing past the top two.
Yeah, you know, I think so too. And for third, she fit. She was on the chase in that wide country. And the horse that won that race actually came back to run ran third, excuse me, in the Beaumont. So, I mean, underneath, not too bad. I think she's another one that sits a little bit of a trip off the pace, but probably not as good as the top two in here.
All right, well, we'll take a short break before we come back with the rest of the card. Stay with us.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to the Sunday after the Belmont edition of Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi with Paul Verderosa, and we get into a starter allowance race in race number 6 for fillies and mares. We're going 1 1/8 on the turf course. This one will be on the inner, and From Hello, a horse that you have on top and I have third, certainly seems like a logical contender. We'll take a look at her race with Accept Temptation from May 12th, and I wanted to show the full race for these horses because I feel as though there was a little bit of trouble early on for some of them, a little bit of traffic to run into. How did you see that effort they both came out of?
Yeah, I think that they had the problems at the start of the race too, and you could see here you have From Hello and at the break Accept Temptation as well, and you can see where they broke out of there. Expect Temptation, I think it was okay here, and then kind of just got a little bit shuffled back. You see him getting pulled back a little bit there. I mean, for me, in From Hello's case, I feel like that she's ran fine in her 2 turf starts. I know she didn't win them, so I just want to give her one more shot, despite the fact that she's not coming out of the strongest races. Sometimes that kind of plays in, but you can't kind of fault who you run against sometimes. So, and I like the rider switch to Jose Ortiz. Not that Jason Weyes, I don't think, did anything wrong in the starts that, you know, he rode her in. But as you watch the race, I mean, to me, again, when you're looking at it, obviously From Hello got the better trip, from that better than, you know, Accept Temptation did.
She did, and she's one that's also, you know, fairly lightly raced. That was only her 3rd start and only her 2nd time getting over to the turf course. And Lady of Thornton was able to get the win that day at a bit of a price, but she's one that had shown some ability in the past as well. So I don't mind this field in terms of what she's coming out of. I do think this one might have some more salty players to it, but I would say that effort is fairly legitimate, and of course, as you mentioned, not that Wyatt did anything wrong, but upgrading to Jose Ortiz, who is having a sensational Belmont meet right now, certainly doesn't do you any harm.
Yeah, and you can see here, too, coming into the lane. I mean, Expect Temptation covered, obviously, more ground coming wide. I think the biggest problem for me Accept Temptation, excuse me, is that even though figures numbers wise, it's hard to get past the 1 for 22 in the 5 seconds and the 3/3 on that
Right.
horse. So for me, I thought from Hello, I want to give her just one more shot against this group. It is a tougher race, but I think she's going to sit the right trip in here.
That's all fair. I went with a horse Always Laughing for the Maury Barn, who really came to life during our Aqueduct meet and has continued that success coming into Belmont. He's had a lot of very live runners and been able to step some of them up in terms of class, and that's what Always Laughing is doing in here. That was only her second turf start that she was able to win last time out, and she had had some okay races on synthetic as well. But a horse that I like a little bit too in the number 10 Pegs AK Girl is one that you don't really have anywhere, but we'll take a look at her race last time out where she was coming back from a little bit of a break too, and she got claimed that day. She's a horse that was favored, but there was a little bit of trouble in the stretch for her as you see her looking for a place to go, not really having it at the moment, and kind of those other horses keeping her in. And then this horse that's in front of her is drifting out just a touch, having to have her alter course to be able to try and pass by. They ultimately didn't change anything. I don't know that it really would have changed the order of finish, but with how close things are at the end, you have to wonder if perhaps she was able to maintain a straight course, keep her forward momentum going, that the outcome may have been different.
Yeah, I don't think it would have really changed much. That's me personally. I don't think it really would have. I mean, this horse has run fine. You know, second starts off of a layoff, does have faster races to go back to, is first off the claim here as well. We saw the race a little bit differently, and that's part of the game as far as that goes. But I just think, I think also the Irad, if he would have, I think if he probably wants that little bit back, or he paused a little bit from the 60, but he's won a lot more races than I have, that's for sure. So I think in Peg's AK's Girl case, I would rather have her than have Always Laughing, because I just kind of feel like with Always Laughing, it like last time was the time. Like I just feel like it was a perfect trip for her. So, but Peg's AK Girl, I could certainly make a case for.
You like don't mess with Tess a little bit. What happened last time?
She just didn't run her race last time out. She's probably a better synthetic horse than she is a turf horse. I think it's fair to kind of say that just based on her overall body of work. But she does have turf races to go back to that make her competitive here. And I think she's got the inside post today. She's handy enough where Dylan can find a spot for her, maybe laying fourth or third, and maybe kind of trip out in this spot for her. I'm not saying that she's a great turf horse, but against this group, I think she can factor in here with any kind of trip. And for me, Up Her Sleeve also was another horse that I gave a little bit of a look to as well in here. I thought 2 starts back, ran okay. She needs to get a little bit faster. It's third start off the layoff for Bruce Levine. And another horse that I think will be able to see what's going on. Maybe she can get over to the inside and find a trip.
All right, a contentious race in the 6th. As we move on to race number 7, we have 2-year-old fillies, a maiden special weight going 5 furlongs on the turf. I love seeing these 2-year-old turf races. Really fun to dive into some of those pedigrees, and this seems like a pretty open affair with a horse that had some experience coming out in Yellow Sundress, who was, I know, your top pick, unfortunately, of course. But we'll take a look at a horse that does have an OBS sales work, and that's the number 6 Beads, who ended up selling, and she worked 10 and a 5th, this Daughter of Speightstown. I feel like she has a really turfy action to her, really flicking her toes forward, kind of has that nice stride, and she doesn't look like she's going that fast. Got the lead change a little bit in the later stages, but I think that she could be a contender. Yeah,
I saw exactly what you saw when it came to a turfy look with her, and the way she also strided out and then hit her final strides and actually changed leads. So I like this horse. The first 4 winners, you know, out of the foal have been fine. Screaming By is one of the bigger names. The Dam broke her maiden on the turf at Saratoga, so she's got pedigree. I put her 4th in here. There's so much going on. This race is so loaded.
At 3-1 instead of 4-5 on the morning line, that there is a lot going on outside of that one. A horse that I had some interest in was the number 7 Kodiak Wintergreen, who does have some pedigree. The dam was unraced herself, but has produced some good ones with a horse like Glorious Empire, earner of almost $1 million. He actually won our Grade 1 Sword Dancer in 2018, as well as the very precocious Love Reigns, who went out for Wesley Ward, won her 2-year-old turf debut sprinting as well, and then put some good races together after that. So I had some interest in this one. Jose Ortiz, of course, as we mentioned, riding extremely well. Might try to beat that Wesley Ward horse with her and a couple of others, but this is a fun race.
Yeah, Rusty Arnold, too, is 3 for 10 with a $4.04 ROI with 2-year-old fillies, first-time starters, turf sprinting. You mentioned the background on the pedigree for this horse, Glorious Empire. Is Maggie around? Got to find Maggie Wolfenthal for that. So, and Kodiak as well. So I think this horse is a big player. I just wonder now if this horse is going to fall into favoritism over the Wesley Ward horse, but I like this horse on top. I think there's so many ways you can go in here. Precisely, you talked about it's about with a little bit with Wesley Ward. It's High Tech's first crop, so we'll see how that goes. And Dr. Ray D too. You know, Constitution actually did run on the turf, was 5th in the Bernard Baruch, and then you have Zia, who was a 2-time winner on the turf as well. So I think there's a lot of interesting ways to go, and I don't think you have to settle for just a Wesley Ward firster in here, which a lot of people tend to gravitate to.
No, and certainly is capable and can win, but there's a lot of options outside of that one. As we move on to the 8th race, we have a starter allowance going 6 furlongs for those 3-year-olds and up, and we can take a look at a race that many of them come out of with Built to Last, Win for Gold, and Nolo Contesto. And what did you assess from these horses? Was there one that you liked more than the others as far as this race played out?
So Nolo Contesto, to me, I thought was going to benefit from the cutback today. And I just thought that he would have a little bit better of a trip. I'm not sure that he really wanted to be on the front end, and I'm not exactly sure how it ended up that way either. I don't know if it was just a factor of it being off the turf and just not much, you know, going last time out. But a couple of starts back, I don't mind so much the rally that this horse put in. It's David Jacobson. It's rhyme or reason with David Jacobson. Some days they fire at big prices. Other days they don't. So definitely a contender in here. Win for Gold as well. I just feel like at this point with Win for Gold dropped in to win, now isn't holding those leads in the stretch, and I just feel like there's other speed in here, and I just wonder how that's going to play out today as well. So I just kind of wanted to stay away from the Win for Gold for me. I just was not a play for me in here.
No, I ended up picking him second just because he does have that early speed, and sometimes he surprises you with being able to sustain it for a little bit longer, but he's extremely difficult to trust, especially at a short price. So one that I was a little bit interested in was the number 3, Inevitable Connection, who's kind of like a new face to this group, which I always find appealing because he does have some back dirt races that make him a player in here, even though he has been running on the synthetic and turf lately. I thought that if Win for Gold wasn't able to sustain that pace, he'd be sitting right there.
He would sit right off his flank, you know, sitting in second. And for me, I really thought that Turns and Conditions was a horse who was going to get back to the better race 2 starts back. Last time on the turf, just didn't fire at all. But if you go back 2 starts, I know it was a small field, and the pace relative to the times that the track was playing was fast that day because the track kind of was dead for a little bit at the Aqueduct. We slowed down during the winter time. But this was a horse who just literally exploded and drew off. Plus, it's not like Matty Olver wasn't working on the horse on the backside either to get the horse motivated, drop back a little bit.
We can take a look at that replay
yeah,
as well.
And still had that kick going. Oh, we do have the replay for that, right?
We do.
Oh, okay. There we go. So there's Turns and Conditions in the back of the pack. And you can see Matty just flicked him to the outside, and just exploded and still had that kick. So the good races for Turns and Conditions definitely make him competitive here. Rob 6 for 30 with a $4.04 ROI turf to dirt sprinting in the last 5 years. And this horse gets paced to run at today. So if they do knock up front or Win for Gold does come back to them, this horse could be sitting a pretty good trip getting back to the 6 furlongs and back on dirt. So I'm willing to take a shot in here, hopefully get a little bit of a price.
Yeah, I saw a lot of what you did with this one if that pace does come apart in the later stages as we move on to another stakes for 2-year-olds. In the 9th race, and we have the Tremont for those 2-year-old males going 5.5 furlongs. And unlike the race that we're going to look at earlier in the card, I didn't see a lot of horses that were able to pass horses. In this one, there's a little bit more speed going on. And we can take a look at a horse in Gold Sweep winning last time out with Jose Ortiz and Steve Asmussen. This one installed as your 9-5 morning line favorite. This is one that was able to sit a little bit further back and pass in the lane.
Yeah, this was a good race for this horse. Was game in here, ran a solid figure, was able to pass horses, like you said. Second time out now, moving into this race. I don't know if this race is particularly harder. I think that this horse will be able, again, to sit almost the same trip that he sat in here. For what it's worth, Steve Asmussen, he's 0 for 3 with 1 in the money, 2-year-old winners last time out. here at NYRA, moving up to non-graded stakes. It's a small sample. It's just something to keep in mind because Steve does so many things well. But it goes to show you that he has so many horses that he'll run in maiden races and then put them right into graded stakes.
Right, it's just
so
not
it's
something
interesting
he does
to see. You don't see him that often.
Right, absolutely. This one clearly a player. And we'll take a look at a horse that is trying the dirt after winning on the turf first time out in Ship Cadet, who you ended up picking on top.
Yeah, I like this horse today. Now, I know that this horse set a perfect trip in behind the dueling leaders this day. So for me, I think that today the switch to dirt isn't so much of a problem. The dam ran at Emerald Downs, was a dirt horse. And what I also liked about this race, too, which gives me a little bit of hope, too, on the dirt, Irad rode this horse to the wire. Sometimes in the grass races, you tend to wrap up. You're in front a little bit. You know, the margins are what they are. Irad rode him out to the wire. It makes me think that he actually strided out to the wire. He's going to appreciate the dirt. Midshipman, you know, won here on the dirt plenty of times here at Belmont in 2009. You know who was up on him?
Tell me.
Mig.
Wow.
So Richie was up on that too. Yeah, Richie was up on it. So we got a Mig reference here in Talking Horses today on Sunday.
Beautiful. We had flashing yesterday that we talked about, so we got to fit one in every show.
So I think that this horse will be okay in here. I think the horse has been working well to come into this race as well. Mike Maker's got okay numbers switching turf to dirt, has a rod, and I think this horse is a player in here.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying completely, and I picked this horse second, so I don't disagree with that at all. Jive is one that was a little bit intriguing for me with Javier Castellano getting aboard. Did run at Gulfstream first time out, but this is a cool race, and again, we really look forward to those 2-year-olds and seeing what they can do going forwards. I think there's a little more speed in here than the earlier one. We'll see if somebody is the speed of the speed or ends up coming from off of it.
Yeah, and in Jive's case, too, Broken did have a comfortable trip in there after that, so I like that the way Jive leveled off running to the wire and beyond it. So he had that look of he's going to want to go a little bit longer than the 5 furlongs. And Yo-Yo Candy was a horse that I wanted to mention, too, for a second. Danny Velasquez has come up here and won races before and has done a good job with horses. This horse actually cruised up to the lead really nicely in his start at Parks, laying off of the leaders. Now, I'm not sure how much was in that field because they were strung out at the end. But this horse, even though he was green, still drew off in the race and is better for the experiences. And Danny's horses, he wouldn't ship up here if he didn't think he had a shot. So Yo-Yo Candy was a little bit of a long shot look for me in that third slot.
Fun race. We'll see what happens in the 9th as we move on to another stakes on our card, the final stakes of the day, and that's the Wonder again, originally scheduled for Thursday, now moved to today. It's a grade 2 for those 3-year-old fillies on the turf, and I think this is the only time we agree today.
Yeah, but that makes the show good.
It does. Revelita, what do you like about her?
She's been closing into slow-paced races, and one of these days I just feel like I'm going to catch her. And the Edgewood was a tougher spot.
Which we can show.
That she was going to face, that she's going to face today. To me, I think that she is the horse to beat in here. There you see her on the outside in the Edgewood in here. And I feel like that in both races, she's just caught really slow paces, and she's finishing the best of everybody in all of those races that she's in. I know, like I said, that she lost in here, but it was a nice run when she was in the clear. And once again, she got wired. In this race in the Edgewood, I think it's interesting to note, too, that even though she got off slow, no, she didn't get off slow in the race, I'm sorry. It's just that she settled in and she makes that one run. So I'm just hoping that she's a little bit closer in contact today and she gets a little bit more of that kick in here. So I think she's the horse to beat in here. You're not going to get much of a price on her, I don't think, but I guess maybe you saw a lot of what I saw.
Yes,
okay.
yes, I agree with you quite a bit about Revelita. I mean, this is one I had some interest in her first 2 starts in the U.S. when she was a better price, albeit, but she ran really well last time, closing into that slow pace, just like you mentioned, and I think that this extra distance won't hurt her chances either. Of the 3 Chad Browns, I do like her best. Clearly, David Aragona agrees that that'll be the public sentiment, making her 5-2 of those 3, but Prerequisite is another one that I think deserves a look. Had a little bit of a trip first time out, but ended up running really well to get the maiden win last time. She will have to get a little bit faster, but I think that she's one that's improving and moving in the right direction for him. You always want to kind of take a look at those other Chad Browns.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that this horse can get the distance for sure. So Highland Grace has come back to run well. So I feel like that this horse probably is one of those, the Chad horses that's going to be the closest up, I guess you could say. So I have no problem with prerequisite at all in this spot. And here, as a matter of fact, I picked her second. So
There we
should be
go.
okay in here, yeah.
A horse that neither of us have any interest in, All-American Beauty. We'll show her race at Keeneland where she was breaking from post 13 that day on April 14th. And I don't know that she ends up getting the right kind of trip in here with how these races so often play out in our turf races. You don't want to be so far back early on, especially with what we've seen over this weekend. She does have some talent, though. You have to give her that.
Yeah, no, she has talent, and Frankie Dettori rode her well this day and rode her out. Like you, I kind of feel like she's up against it from the inside post, and you just wonder where she's going to end up. Now, maybe she drops back to last and she makes one run and navigates her way through traffic. So I know that there was some next out winners in the race and so on, but I don't know. I just feel like, is the same running style going to work here for her against these horses?
I don't think so, and
Yeah.
clearly neither do you. We have one more race that we can show for Venencia, who is another Chad Brown entrant, who you and I have both picked fourth, and this is the one that Irad Ortiz Jr. gets aboard, so going to take some money based on that. And she's a horse that really did not fare well at the break in her last start.
You know what? She got off slow, but she was climbing with her stride, if you see that. And I think sometimes when horses break slow and they're just not comfortable, they start to climb because they want to catch up a little bit with the pack. Irad got her to settle down, and then, she uncorked a nice run when she got flipped into the clear. And she was another victim of a race there where the winner wired the field. So I know she's stepping up today into graded stakes, and the gate issues can be a concern. But she's got some talent, and I think she can run because her race overseas was a good race if you happen to take a look at it. I know she was a price in there, but she actually really uncorked a rally in that race from where she was going to get up for first. So I think if she can get some over the gate issues today, she's another Chad Brown to consider in here. But I'm a Revelita fan. I just want to get Revelita home one of these days.
I know,
To get home.
and might be the favorite today, probably going to be. Unfortunately, you won't get your same price as last two times, but certainly the most logical contender to both of us. Spansive is one that we haven't mentioned, who we both have in the mix, who will be sitting more forwardly placed.
You know, she's been able to control both the races that she's been in, but the one thing people are kind of split on her when you talk to some people. People say she didn't finish her races. I think she finished her races off. So, which makes me think the extra furlong here going the mile and eighth is not going to be a problem for her. Just send her out of the gate. I think if Johnny could just get in front and control,
which he does so well.
yeah, she will be fine out there. And, I think she's been flattered a bit. Horses have come back out of those races, run some figs that are better as well, much bigger figs too. So she's probably, more than likely, the speed in this race. I think the two question marks people are going to have is she going to finish at a mile and an eighth? And what kind of trip or how close are horses going to be, like prerequisite to her, or Venetia breaking, or Revelita, or Be Your Best?
Be Your Best is one that we don't have anywhere, who I was really high on as a 2-year-old. I just want to see her go on with it as a 3-year-old a little bit more before I end up taking her. But if she gets back to some of that 2-year-old form and promise that she showed, certainly could end up being a player. I think this spot might be a little too tough for her based on what we've seen lately. Excuse me, as we move to the final race on today's card, and this is something you and I have both talked about quite a bit off camera. Paul, this race is fun.
Yeah, you left us quite a bit of time to talk about the last race in here. Not much form to go on unless you happen to like Ripe for Mischief, and I just can't. I know the horse is dropping down, and I just wonder, dropping off bad races, if the better days are behind this horse. And I don't say that in a mean way. I just wonder that after all these starts and now dropping down, are we supposed to like this horse more now being in the outside post going 7 furlongs?
No.
Probably
no.
what's going to be.
I think we're both scared of him enough to use him somewhere in the mix, just because I don't think a ton of the rest of this field, and I wasn't overly impressed by any of these first-time starters based on trainer stats or pedigree, although I did ultimately end up going with one, just looking for a new face for a barn that can certainly fire with first-time turf starters. But this is a wide-open affair, and there isn't really much form to go on. A horse like Laurel Valley, who we both have in the mix, who was announced as a first-time gelding, which wasn't in the program today, this is one that's going to take some money. Irad Ortiz Jr. factor, Mike Maker, and he might be able to be the one if you don't like some of the shorter prices, but you're not going to get much of a price on him either.
No, not with the Rad riding. The Dam did win on the grass, so this horse does have a little bit of pedigree to get on the grass, and Mike Maker's got okay numbers going the first time here on turf, but I don't know, with Irad up, I just think there's prices you can go to in here that you don't need to look at some short prices in here. And for me, it was Sir Lance, the 10. So I'm hoping that this horse drops today, gets in with state breds, puts blinkers on today. You know what? This horse, when you watch the races at Tampa, to me, ran like a horse who's going to be suited for the one turn and here on the Widener. I think going the mile and a 16th was a little too far last time, was in a good position, tracked, and just folded up late. I want to give this horse a shot. I think this horse is going to be double-digit odds just because of the connections. But I think first time against New York breds, dropping in class here, it's not like this horse has to improve leaps and bounds to win against this group. And I think you could probably get 10 or 15 to 1 in this race with this horse today.
Right, fairly unknown connections in terms of this circuit, though certainly capable of getting horse to the winner's circle. I like the change of the blinkers going on. I ended up picking this one third in what is truly a chaotic way to end all of Belmont Stakes weekend, and certainly an exciting race if you can get a price home in the finale.
Sharp Playboy was a horse I just wanted to mention for 1 second for Eddie Barker.
We have time.
Yeah, we got time. Another horse who drops in class today and will take on state breds as well for the first time on the grass too. I know the numbers aren't that great, but I think, again, it's another horse who's dropping down. I know the horse needs to improve, but if you're looking for a horse who's probably going to be 25 to 1 to complete your tries or supers, you know, you can't go wrong if you can find a value, especially in this kind of race where we both kind of feel that, yeah, you don't want to take a shot with Ripe for Mischief, who's probably going to be, I don't know, 4 to 3 to 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's not often that you see David make a line this wide open, so he obviously feels the same way about this race as we do.
And we both kind of left out who the actual morning line favorite is now that I'm looking at it, too.
Right.
So in the one horse, I wasn't crazy about the switch over, and there wasn't much to go on for me for that horse.
No, and Rob Falcone did really well with a horse like Freudian, getting her onto the turf where I think she ran okay, even though the form doesn't necessarily indicate so. But she had some pedigree to suggest that she would appreciate that surface switch. While this one is lacking in that, there's a lot going on in this last race. There's a lot that's been going on all weekend. Paul, this was fun. I'm glad that we finally got the chance to actually handicap and talk about some races on air together, as we do so often in the office, but this was a good time.
Yeah, pleasure working with you for the first time. Hopefully we get to do it again.
I'm sure we will. You can head on over to Naira Bets if you're not already signed up. I don't know where you've been for the past several episodes of Talking Horses, as well as our America's Day at the Races show, but you have a $200 deposit match sign-up bonus. We have a new promo code that is bonus200. You can even scan the QR code there if you don't want to do any typing. What else do we have going on today? We have our middle pick 4, as mentioned earlier. That's going to be taking place in races 5 through 8. A couple of other things going on today. We have a free-to-play game that's going to be play at freetoplay.nairabets.com. You can get some real prizes. There's no registration required, and it's a great way to get in on some of today's action. Another way to do so is with our next offering that we have, that $5,000 hit and split. You have to opt in, so make sure to do so. But you can hit the Belmont or Monmouth late pick 5 and split $2,500 each way. Great way to get a little bit of extra cash if you're already cashing a ticket. What else do we have going on? We have our cross-country pick 5. Hopefully you can cash a ticket there. It starts here at Belmont Park with our 6th, 7th, and eventually our 10th race. You'll also head on over to Woodbine and Monmouth as well. And of course, you can catch all of the action today on America's Day at the Races. That's going to be on Fox Sports 2 from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Then we'll switch over to FS1 3 to 6. Of course, you can always check all that action out on our Naira YouTube channel. And Paul, this was a great time. I am ready for a nap after this weekend, but what an exciting time to be a fan of horse racing.
An exciting day, one more day, so come on out here. The weather is absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be 80
crowded
today. It's not that crowded right now. Come out and say hello. We don't bite. A lot of people stopped by, said hello, said they liked seeing us on there, so that's always fun to do. Some great racing continues. And yeah, it was a pleasure working with you for the first time.
We had a blast. Enjoy the races today.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant.